I think after the second half of this episode of Renai Boukun Love Tyrant, that Shikimi is best girl. And if you say no, obviously you're wrong, because how can you beat, just the hard eyes, to the stockings, the skirt, all that? Just how can you beat best girl Shikimi? Like, I don't know how anyone could say no to her being best girl of this series. Anyways, though, this episode introduces a pink-haired sadist, not to be mistaken for Akane, which is the yandere of this series, and that honestly still surprises me how this series actually wanted to go that far. I mean, it already has so many other themes, so many cliches and tropes that's thrown in, and as I've talked about many times, it's obviously self-aware of what it has here. It boggles my mind how now we have a yandere and a sadist in one series, and they're not the same character. They're both separate characters, and it just blows my mind just seeing something like that in this series. Now, before I talk about the second half, to the animation, art, all of that, let's talk about the first half. So, the first half of the episode, it is a very sweet, funny / relaxing first half, but also dives into some characterization for our main cast, our two main girls, which is, the two sisters. And we found out how Akane met her younger sister, and kind of what started this relationship between the two sisters, and also how she fell in love with her sister and wanted to be around her constantly. We got that explanation. So because of that, we now know that there is definitely some issues amongst the family, Akane's family, and how her family doesn't really like her, but also how the only person that really likes her from her family is obviously her little sister. And it makes sense now why Akane hasn't tried to just throw away her sister, like get her out of the picture, because as we've seen from the recent episodes, you'd think someone like Akane, and how she has, this love for our main male character, you'd think she would not want her sister around her at all, and that she'd try to shove her away or do something to her to where she would never want to be around her. But from what we see from the flashback in this episode, that is not necessarily the case. There clearly is some form of love there, and Akane, she's very misunderstood. She does have some form of feelings for her, little sister. She does watch over her, and also she's willing to, turn another cheek to her actions and what she does. Honestly, she doesn't really care what her sister does. Like, if she wants to stalk her or whatever, she doesn't really care. However, it seems like she does care about her sister's well-being, and that, she doesn't want her sister to get in a problem to where the family doesn't like her, she gets into trouble or whatever. It seems like Akane-sensei is trying to protect her sister, and that really showed up a lot throughout the first half of the episode, and showing that there's a little bit more to the relationship between these two characters than meets the eye. And most likely, as we continue through this series, we're probably gonna have an arc focusing on these two sisters, find out why Akane was separated from her sister and why they first met up after some time passed. Most likely there's gonna be an arc completely focused on that, and I'm pretty excited to see how this series handles serious moments. I mean, we already kind of got a glimpse of how, Love Tyrant handles serious moments from the second episode of the series, and overall it did it pretty well. I wasn't really disappointed in the second episode, the way it handled some of those themes and how it handled the serious moments, so I really had no problem with that. So I'm kind of curious on how it's going to handle these serious arcs in the future, because the way it was setting it up in the first half. Now, besides the serious moments, there was quite a few moments throughout the first half that just made me laugh so hard, and some of the moments I want to talk about is definitely with Guri and how she was trying to figure out why, the little sister, why she was, going to a different school, but then she came to, the school where Akane was. She was kind of curious, like, why are you doing this? Like, why are you going to that school? And we come to find out, apparently, she's supposed to go to a rich school, but actually, she's going to, their school. She's just stalking her sister, and so she has, like, a person, playing her role, playing her spot in school that honestly looks nothing like her. Like, oh my god, that disguise is... No. But besides all of that, though, there was moments throughout the episode, especially with Guri looking in limo, and she was looking down at this bag of trash, and trash was above her head. I'm like, oh my god, like, I can already see people making, like, memes with that, just taking a picture of that, and just saying trash when they look at something, trash, just using that picture as some form of meme material. I can already see that being used. I can already see the memes happening. So, yeah, besides the first half, we move into the second half, which kind of the first half did set up for it, and we got a little bit of a character introduction for Shikimi in the first half in a flashback that apparently she knew the two sisters, and she was very mean. She was a very mean individual when she was younger, and we get to see this character pop up in the second half. Now, one of the big things about her character is just how she changed her entire attitude, because there's just quite a shift that I really didn't know what to expect, because this series is going to eventually have a trap. This is kind of what I want to talk about. I figured that Shikimi was going to be a trap because of what the series has done thus far. I mean, think about it, okay? It's had a yandere, it's had a little sister, it's had, you know, this relationship with all these other different cliches or tropes with other characters, it's had the teacher-student relationship, it's had all of these, you know, weird relationships that you see constantly in these type of manga that's very funny, and I was going to assume that this character, Shikimi, before I saw this episode, I assumed that the character was going to be a trap. That's what I assumed. I was like, the character might be a trap because this series obviously needs a trap character, because if it's going to add in everything, there's eventually going to be a character like that. So it's just a certain amount of time is going to pass until we finally get there, because that's going to happen. That definitely is going to happen before everything is said and done, and I'm kind of curious the way the trap is going to be used. Regardless, though, my fears didn't happen. The girl, Shikimi, she didn't turn out to be a trap, and actually she was a sadist. And now, like I said, that entire scene blew my mind, because I didn't think we would have a sadist and a yandere in one series. It's just something you don't normally see. And it feels like this character is on the very extreme side of being a sadist. And I'm like, yo, what the hell? Like, you see how she's like, oh, so you're immortal and all that, so I could do pain to you and hurt you. And she was just straight up, what it appears, we didn't really get to see, but it appears she was stabbing him or whatever because he can't die, because he's immortal. And then she's like, oh, this is nice and all that. This is pretty cool to be able to do this. And it just shows what type of character she is. So she's a very extreme Akane. Akane is a yandere, but she does have that dairy side to her where she does, you know, care about her main male character and doesn't want him to come to any harm. There's a very big difference in this episode that it kind of wants to show, because Akane, she showed throughout this episode, she does care about the well-being of our main male character. She's like, oh, you caught a cold and all that, let's hopefully you get better and all that, trying to help him out, taking him to the nurse office or whatever, making sure he makes a full recovery. And I like the way this episode tried to show the contrast between these two types of characters, you know, a yandere and a sadist, because even though yanderes are crazy, they usually don't want to hurt their significant other. They don't want to hurt the person they're in love with. Sometimes they do, but not often do they do it. So overall, I don't think that, you know, yanderes and sadists are very similar. Sometimes they, you know, correlate with each other, but overall there is some very vast differences, and this episode clearly wanted to show that. For instance, you know, Shikimi, and how she was a complete sadist, she was into that darker side of a yandere, which is, you know, complete sadism, and I was like, bro, like, what the fuck? Like, I just cannot believe this series just kind of shifted like that, like, just showing these two different types of characters, and actually showing the contrast of what makes them different. But overall, though, in terms of design, in terms of, you know, Shikimi and how she looks and all that, oh my god, like, love that design. Gotta admit, love the design. Big fan of it. And the animation in that scene, like, holy shit. That was, like, some high-quality animation. Like, I mean, perverted, you know, ecchi scenes. Yeah, they tend to have better budget, but my god, like, besides just, you know, the stuff that was borderline hentai, I just want to honestly just acknowledge how good the animation looked. Like, just throwing out the perverted stuff for a second, okay? Just throw that out of your mind real quick. Let's just acknowledge how good the art and animation was in that scene. It was really surprising how good it was. I was like, yo, the way the hand movements were and all that, the way the camera was panning and stuff, just everything about that, it honestly just surpassed my expectations when it came to the art and animation of this series. Clearly, the animators, they went all in for that scene. Oh yeah, you could see they definitely did, because the way it looked. But anyways, though, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I love you all so much. You have a wonderful day or nights wherever you live. Please be safe. Chibi out.